Well, this just kind of helps us get an idea of how many years. Why don't I call up
Yeah, just all of a sudden. Just barely
Oh, I'm sorry.
closes here, so I didn't want to hit you.
Oh no, I know the struggle.
Yep, that was fine. Well, Jeremy, I know you've been off a couple of days, and I wasn't able to get back with you yesterday because I had some stuff going on.
You sounded like you were busy.
Yeah, I had several meetings. So, I know I've been talking to your managers and reviewing the documentation from the other night when you refused to take group meeting. And, I don't have good news for you because, I think that particular situation is considered insubordination. And we did look back, and you have had training on Dane and signed the training sheets.
I was told
on
to
his
sign
procedures.
I have been told to sign the training sheets by Tammy Martinson, but I told her, I'm like, but I'm not trained on them, and she's like, just sign them.
You have had before, though.
Because I was told to, and nobody trained me on them. I want to say my last day with Dane, I got all kinds of negative reinforcement on it. It was like, why didn't you put cream on them? I didn't know you had to put cream on them. Why aren't you running his programs correctly? I'm like, because I don't know what to do with him. And then I find out later on that Tammy has been trained on. She's worked with Dane. And like, you can obviously tell because like responds positively to that. And I'm like, so when I'm bringing it up to Chastity, I'm like, I have yet to actually be trained on him. And she's like, read a book.
Well, and you've been trained on his programs, it looks like to me.
I just was told to sign a sheet. Half the times they're just like, sign it.
So who did this then?
A lot of times it'll be either Chastity or Tammy. Tammy will hand me a pile of papers and she's like, just sign them.
Okay, this looks like Holly Kanoki reviewed it.
So
that was quite a while ago.
I want to say at least 6 months ago, but like
back in April.
I don't know if Holly Kanoki even really trained us because she was never in the unit. She was always in New Horizons. That was their biggest complaint.
I guess I don't understand why you would sign something that you didn't
because I was
understand.
straight up told to. Like, that happens more than you think. Like, look at the sign-in sheet during a shift and ask people how many people actually read those things that they sign.
Well, they should be, because this shows that this shows me that
like,
you've had training on.
Well, from what I've been told, it's like it's that you understand what's going on. It's not that you're trained on him. It's like
no.
When I'm in Evergreen, they have me sign other people's stuff. It's like, well, it's got a different thing going. I'm not trained on it. And I'm only trained on Group 1, Group 2. They had me sign 2 sheets. I'm like, so if we're going to go with that logic, I am somehow trained in New Horizons, Rainbow, and Evergreen, if we're going to go with that logic. And the only time I ever worked in New Horizons was when no staff were there and it was me in an overnight. And the overnight wasn't trained in a single day of AMs, and I've never been trained in that unit.
Right. Well, I agree that there's been some emergency times where we've had to just have people there supervising. But this to me shows me you've had training, and I see that you have run programs because your initials are on his status sheet.
As far as I know, there are no programs for Dane.
Well, then how did you run his tooth?
If brushing teeth is a program, then I guess
toothbrushing.
I just took that as hygiene. Like, that's no different than them taking a shower or a clean breath.
They tolerate toothbrushing for 1 minute and 20 seconds or more. So you're just filling in data and not even reading stuff, or what?
No, it's like, yeah, I brushed his teeth. Didn't know that was a program. As far as I know, that's hygiene.
Well,
because
a hygiene tracking sheet looks a little bit different than a program.
Well, it's just...
Doesn't it, Kelly? Yes.
Well, like, if you read it, though, it's like, you brushed his teeth. okay, yeah, I brushed his teeth. That's how I look at that. I did not look at brushing teeth ever as a program. To me, it seems like no different. Like, we're supposed to support like these guys living a normal life. Like, when I brushed my teeth, I never looked at me brushing my teeth as like a program. It's hygiene. I don't want people to be like, your breath smells bad, or your teeth look a little green today. Have you ever heard of a toothbrush? Like,
So as long as you've been here
3 years in April.
so you still don't have the concept of why we run programs.
No, I got the concept of programs. It's just when we get those sheets, it's like I'm not trained on that group. Even when I'm in Evergreen, they'll hand me a training sheet. I'm like, I'm not trained on this group. Well, it's not to say that you're trained. It's that you understand the concept of what's going on here is what I've always been told. And I even told Chastity like 3 times, I'm like, I'm not trying to get out of the group.
Well,
The group is the easiest group in the unit.
She offered to give you a crash course.
She did, and I'm like, is that a proper way to train anybody? And she's like, well, we have a lead worker here that's not trained on anybody. I'm like, I don't know how that's a good argument, because they have that lead worker train other people. So I'm like, if you want me to deviate that from a second, it's like, you're essentially going to have a lead worker, for example, train somebody on Aaron, but she don't even know what to do with it. So like, how is that a good example? And I just told Chastity, I'm like, I'm not trying to get out of Dave's group. Dave's group is literally the easiest group in the unit. David does his walking, you give him a pop, he does his leisure, you run a leisure time with him, he does his walking, gets another pop, eats, gets another pop, and then essentially he coasts, unless if it's day 3, then he gets another pop. It's easy. From what I've seen staff do, they just let him sit in his room all day, check him to see if he needs to be changed, he walks all over the unit, that's it. I'm like, don't look hard. I'm like, so that's not what I'm trying to get at. But like with New Horizons, that day when I got shoved in New Horizons and I was absolutely not trained on anybody, and they had Frankie in there with me who had never worked at AM before, I'm like, that was the final straw. I'm like, I need to be trained.
That was an emergency,
like,
but yeah.
I'm like, no matter how easy.
And that has happened. I understand that.
And I'm
I
like,
get that.
no matter how easy, and I told Chastity, I'm like, no matter how easy, it's just easy. It is so easy, it's not even funny. And I'm like, easiest group. He has his moods almost all the time. Then you got to deal with like Kyle wanting to take a vacation outside and obsessing. I'm like, Dane he don't yell at you, he don't scream at you. He's a pretty chill dude. So I'm like, don't make it sound like I'm trying to get out of something. I'm like, once again, easiest group. I don't mind watching the hall, walking up and down the hall and folding clothes. I do that at home. Mm-hmm. So I'm like,
okay. Well, the fact of the matter is, you didn't follow instructions from a supervisor. Oh. And that's insubordination.
But isn't there a thing in the book that says if you're not comfortable with a group, you can say that and not take said group? Because I did not feel comfortable being with somebody I wasn't trained with.
I look at this.
I know, but
it
like...
looks to me like you're trained. I look at Chastity's documentation. She was willing to do a quick review with you. You know active treatment. You know programs. You worked with Dave before. You should have a clue how to work with them, mm-hmm. how to read a program and run it. That's why we have data books, so that if you need a refresher, you need to review the program quick on how to run the program.
Didn't you see in the data books that it's weird that I haven't had in like 6 months for like a reason? Like you're saying that's from April.
No, this is from July.
Okay, well I know July wasn't last week.
No, but
my thing is like after all that stuff that went down,
we should have to retrain you over and over again every 3 months.
I'm not saying every 3 months. And I think if you don't take a group for like 3 months, you have to be retrained on it anyways. But
no, that's not true.
Oh, that's what happened to me in Evergreen when I was in there for.
Is that true?
No.
I was told if you haven't worked in a unit for a certain amount of time with a certain group, you have to be retrained.
Which might be reviewing programs. But what I have a question. Like, what is your idea of being trained? If they go through the programs,
like,
you know, that's how we train a lot of people.
Okay.
Not everybody doesn't get like 3 days on a group.
Well,
that's what you're looking for. I mean, we're looking for like 3 days.
No, I just want to be properly shown with that last day too. I wasn't told about his cream, and he bled really bad. So like when you're sitting there, from my point, I was taught nothing properly. He started to bleed in his groin because I didn't know how the cream worked, because nobody was like put cream on. I got, instead of like being told this is how you need to do it, I got, you should have put cream on Dave. I'm like,
but you know, if I would have been up there to like say train you on, I would have had to do the same thing that you probably should do. I would have to read the book because
to refresh your memory.
Yeah,
we work with a lot of people.
I get that, and honestly, like it's not really that hard to like not forget people's like programs. I'm just saying, I have yet to actually be properly trained on Dave. Like Chastity told me she wanted me to be in the same group in a row. That should be in your reports. Like, I don't want you to have the same group in a row. I wouldn't have had the same group in a row. If you had looked at the phone sheet, somebody had like 4 or 6 days straight. And I'm just like, that's the same name.
Well, and sometimes we have to do that.
But like, that was her whole reasoning of me having group 2. It's like, well, I'm not going to let you have the same group twice. Meanwhile, somebody's having another group for like the 5th day in a row. And I'm like, the reasonings to me were just like, it didn't make sense. I'm like...
So because it didn't make sense to you, you just decided that you were going to go home and not follow the supervisor?
No, I was given 2 choices, and these were the choices that were both by Chastity and Tammy. I can take a group I wasn't trained on or go home. And I'm like, how is that a good choice? I'm like, morally, that sounds like a horrible choice. And I'm like, can I take a group?
She was willing to do a review with you.
Yes, and I was willing to be like, throw me with a group I'm trained on. It doesn't even necessarily have to be in Sunshine. They could have threw me in Evergreen. Like with Tammy yesterday, I was like, I'm not trained on. Would you like to work on a group in Evergreen? Sure. We swapped. And I'm like, why didn't that happen yesterday? Like, I was always told that if that nobody can actually take hours from you, like 24 hours, like without 24 hours notice, without giving you like proper choices. And if the choices are a group you're not trained on or go home, I was waiting for the option. You could take a different group in Evergreen. I know there's somebody in Evergreen that's trained in Sunshine because that's why I always get sent down to Evergreen. And those are my reasons. I was just like, so in terms of like what I had to deal with, I'm like, so a group I'm not trained on or go home. Well, I'm like, morally, that the first option sounds like a horrible option.
What could you have done?
What could I have done?
Gone through the book with Chastity, asked her any questions you had, been with that group. We wouldn't be sitting here today.
We wouldn't, but...
And she's the supervisor, and you're not.
I get that, and that's why I was questioning it, and she brought in more supervisors, and nobody had an answer for me.
Well, they both told you the same thing, though.
They're like, you have to take it. That was the reasoning, is you have to take it, like they needed me to take it. Just like the same reason why they threw me in New Horizons. You need to go in there. And like they made it sound like it was... like it had to happen, but we had Jordan up there who's also trained on both of them, and we had another staff who was also like, any way you look at it, I wouldn't have been with the same group twice. I told them I wasn't comfortable with the group, and they gave me the option, go home or stay with a group that I've even said I wasn't comfortable with. And
but you sit there and tell me how easy that group is.
It is easy, but I'm not going to be comfortable. But I've also told you about a story.
You're talking in circles here, Jeremy.
I'm not talking in circles. Like I'm saying, like Dane bled last time I had him. Don't feel comfortable with that because I don't feel good having somebody hurt like that. Like it's a moral thing.
It's a part of what we do, though. We have a lot of people we have to do treatments on.
I get that, but like when you're not effectively told how to do it, like they're saying, well, we have a whole bunch of new people coming here through all the time, you know? And I'm like, I understand that. And lived with his parents, and we had to figure that one out. He came from another comps facility here, and I didn't even know about that, but Tammy's like, yeah, I was a staff when he was out at Burlinghouse. I'm like, so you know all of his programs? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, why isn't she training us? Well, why do we have to guess and scratch our heads?
Well, it looks to me like somebody trained you when he came. So
somebody just told me to sign papers, and it was just like...
Well, you know what? That was your mistake then.
Okay, so what do we have for somebody? It's just like, oh, it's not saying that you're trained on him. It's just saying that you're...
Was this a meeting?
No, that was not a meeting. Half the time...
You just had the whole group together?
Like, if you go into Sunshine and you go in the kitchen and you look right where the computer used to be, it's right where the phone is, there is a clipboard full of sheets to sign, and they're just like, sign them.
Is that true, Kelly? Is that how that works?
That's not typically how we train. You know, I don't do a lot of the training up in Sunshine, but typically we read through what, and we don't just hand them the clipboard and say, sign this sheet. Nobody that I know does that, but
yeah, and that's not how the expectation is here. So if that happened, you know, I guess I wouldn't sign it. If you know, because this just says rec. So there had to be some more information on rec. Why would you just sign the sheet that says rec?
Because I'm told to sign it. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Okay, well, I'm not going to change the outcome of this, Jeremy, because, you know, I feel like the company has bent over backwards with you.
Yeah, and I get that.
As far as following policies and procedures. And our supervisors gave you a directive that you didn't follow. And that's the plain and simple fact of it.
Okay, and if you look at it, I did not put my foot down last time. I straight up told you guys, make the choice you got to make. Like, as you can see, I put no defense on that because I believed your actions were right on that one. This one, I'm putting my foot down because I'm like, I'm not comfortable with the group, and that's insubordination. I seen Jeff do that when he's like, I'm not comfortable. And so he had a 4th day of training. And I'm like, so how can he get that? And I'm just being told I'm being insubordinate right now.
Because your supervisor offered to review stuff with you quickly.
And then I'm like, is that properly training? And she went and looked away. Like,
you should know enough about the consumers,
but like
just from being with them,
but like
and working with them in the past, that you should be able to pick up a data. If I went down and worked on the floor, I could pick up a data book, look at their activity schedule to see what their schedule is, look at their programs, and run the program just by reading it myself. And if there was other things that came up, I would ask questions, plain and simple. But this is somebody you've been around, and you should be able to do the same.
Okay.
That's why we put those programs, that's why we have a data book with the programs there. Because sometimes you have to refresh your memory. Okay, I got to give them up to three physical prompts on that. Okay, yeah, I got that.
Okay.
And then you fill your data out as such. How do you do it with other people? Do you just fill in anything there too?
If it's a group, I'm told, like, okay, here's an example of one night. I walked into Evergreen, they're like, you got group 4. I'm like, I'm not trained on group 4. And so they're like, well, you got group 4. And I'm like, I'm not taking that group. And they're like, well, you're taking it. So I didn't fill out the data books because I don't know how to run. Like, I could sit there and, like, if you go in there with a meal group with me, we'll talk the whole meal group. I can get along with I can get along with Andy, but like I know I've never had anybody like do this exact method with. It's like, well, you know, and he responds to you positively, your staff today. You can take him. Like that would be told a no and Andy yes for me.
Yeah. Well, you know, this program here is pretty simple. And
like I told you, it is simple. Heck, and are probably simple.
After meals, he'll brush his teeth, and you'll call and talk to him while getting his necessary items out, and then you start a timer. And begin his toothbrushing process and encourage him to participate. And basically you just time it. And if he goes more than a minute and 20 seconds, he gets a plus. If he goes less than a minute and 20 seconds and starts refusing, then he gets a minus. I mean, should I have to sit down and read that to you as a refresher so that you know how to run that? Or can you just read that yourself and figure it out? You know how to run programs. I don't really get the
Okay, well I get that.
Issue.
The issue is I wasn't comfortable taking a group, and I'm pretty sure you can find something in writing just like those that will say if I'm not comfortable with taking a group, I can tell them I'm not comfortable and they can put me on another group. I did state that. They told me you can go home then. And
well, you had a choice.
Yes, I did, and I said, well, I don't feel comfortable.
Chastity made an offer to do a quick review with you,
I believe,
and you had a choice.
I believe in my honest, that would not make me comfortable with the group either way. It's like being like, give me a quick rundown on Aaron. Try to understand him and learn to duck. And then you just like, there's your quick rundown. But by the way, he does like his food finely chopped, and he does like to talk about Blue's Clues. So work with that. Like, yeah, you gave me a rundown, but how effective is it?
Well, I think you're, you know, you've had a lot of different chances here, Jeremy, and I think people are just done with this last situation. Insubordination is a dismissible offense, and you've had issues with that before. In fact, that was part of your final warning that I sat in on, and then we've had a discussion since. So we're gonna end your employment.
Okay.
All right. And
all right.
It's unfortunate. You know, you picked up hours. You do some good things with the consumers, but we can't keep going on this path. And I think people are finally done. And I guess I can honestly say I can't blame them. Because
I said I wasn't comfortable with the group? I mean, if you want to fire me, that's cool, but like the reasoning behind it.
No, because it's because you give the people the impression that you aren't willing to follow policies and procedures or directives from supervisors. That's the impression that you give people.
Besides today, what haven't I done to follow things from supervisors?
Well, I'm not going to go back through your file here, but
I mean, humor me, because since our last conversation, I've been here on time like you told me to. I haven't made a fuss except for being like, I'm not comfortable with this group.
Since I talked to you the last time?
Yeah. because you told me make it here on time. I'm like, fine. And I haven't started any fuss other than that. Like,
I think there's been tardies. Maybe not the 45-minute ones, but there has been.
I want to say the last tardy I had is I walked downstairs to clock in and there was no time cards. And I had to go upstairs and find one, and they had to go look for a time card. When I clocked in, it was 9 minutes late. And
did you have a supervisor sign that?
I had Jeannie there when I was looking for the time card. But other
did
than
you ever sign it?
It's probably signed downstairs if you go look.
Well, I'm not going to probably change the outcome.
That's fine. I'm just letting you know I've followed that. I haven't made any fuss.
Well, I honestly can tell you I haven't seen any of those call-in sheets across my desk that say that you were late. So you know.
In terms of, I don't know what else I've done besides, I thought that was a pretty viable reason. Like, I'm not comfortable. I don't think a quick rundown is efficient at 4 days. I mean, yeah, he's easy. Go for it. If you want, what do you need me to sign? Because this is just saying I'm fired.
It's just saying that we issued this termination to you. You can respond if you like in writing on there. You can take whatever time you need to do that.
All right.
Have you done any more with looking into law enforcement?
Yeah, actually, I just got a call back from them yesterday. What's this?
Oh, that's not yours.
Oh, I was like, okay.
Those resumes.
Oh, okay.
So you've applied then, or are you just looking at the information?
No, I already applied and I did all my tests. I was just waiting to hear back from them for more tests. You got that response yesterday.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Oh, no, I know. You're just going off of what was over here and doing your job, so I'm not going to, like, ridicule you guys for it.
Well, you know, there comes a point where we have to, and I do think that, you know, hopefully you learn by this. You know, I hope you, you know, find something that you really like doing, but no matter where you're at, you're gonna have to follow rules, and you're gonna have a supervisor, and you're gonna have to listen to them, and.
Well, I mean, with this last situation, the only rule I broke was saying no. And you guys do have a policy that does say if I don't feel comfortable with a group, I can refuse said group, correct?
It is not written that way, no.
Okay, well, how is it written then?
Well, we expect people to train. We have situations where, like in an emergency situation where we just need some people to supervise, where you might get pulled into that. But, in my opinion, I was a Q, like Tammy, for many, many, many years here. And when you work with people and the people that you are working with, you know, routinely, that's what the data books are there for your reference.
I get that.
So, in my opinion, seeing the documentation that I saw, you had already worked with that group. You should have your data book there to refresh you. In my opinion, you know what active treatment is, the ongoing training. Those data books include other things like, you know, if there's other procedures that you have to follow, and, you know, PT or informal procedures, That's why we have those data books. Those are your tool. The daily activity schedules says what happens when. That's what they're there for. So, in my opinion, it should not have been a big deal at all. And even if Chassie was willing to go through stuff quickly, okay, thank you. You know, it shouldn't be an issue. So.
My only thing is quickly effective though.
Yeah. It quickly is effective.
Now, I honestly,
you're a bright guy.
I am a bright guy, but like when it goes to like, whenever I'm taught to show somebody something, I don't show them quickly to be effective. I show them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sitting there to have Chastity show me how to change a brief. I mean, we literally have, gosh, how many other people know how to do that? And I mean, I've already changed, I guess I'll call them briefs for kids too. I mean, that's pretty easy. And to make sure that there's nothing left over on them, that's pretty self-explanatory. But like, I'm sitting there like, I need to know what his cream is. I need to sit there
and I don't know specific enough if that's something that's.
It might be on the personal cares list.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. But you know, it's kind of, if you kind of look back at it that way, when Aaron moved in, we, like you said, we didn't know anything about him. We kind of learned as we went too, which is what we do with a lot of the individuals that, you know, that are here too.
Yeah, I get that. I was here and we had to learn with him. That's because he's never, as far as I know, been in a place like this. It was like he lived with mom. Now he's got rules and programs and things that he never had to do at home. Whole new environment.
But it's kind of like when he moved in, he didn't move actually from home, but he was new to our.
He was new to this building, but he's been with comps.
But it's really no different than moving in. Oh, everybody didn't know everything about Dean either. I mean, you know, we went off information that Aaron's mom gave us. We went off information that Burlinghouse gave us, and you know, that's kind of how we do the ongoing training too. You kind of learn as you go, but you know, and they don't, you know, as far as the programs go, I don't even know. He probably only has 3 or 4 programs.
Yeah, and just the one I went through with you, you know, you could have read that and understood it just as much as me reading it to you.
Right, and the behavior program. That, like you said, you're bright. You're intelligent.
Yeah. So I mean, it's unfortunate, Jeremy. You know, we got to part ways. You know, I wish you luck in your future. I really do. I hope. And you know, we've had people that have come back and worked for us down the road too. In some situations. So.
Allison told me they don't hire people; they fire. Like they stop that or something.
Well, we can't fire you and then turn around and rehire you right away. We've hired people, you know, they've gone on to other things and maybe come back and, you know, would I be eligible for rehire? You know, what's changed? I usually talk to those people, and sometimes we give people second chances based on the situation, and sometimes we don't. You know, if there's somebody that leaves us that, you know, who has attendance issues and stays at a place 2 months and then goes to another place 2 months, goes to another place 2 months, and then they come back here, it's like, well, to me it doesn't look like you have, you know, changed anything in your life where, you know, that you're taking your job seriously and sticking with it. And so those are kinds of the things that we look at if we, you know, consider somebody. And
okay, I guess the last thing I just have as a concern was the hours. When I had them taken on like Tuesday, I was only there for 30 minutes and they cut me out. I mean, as far as it is, the only alternative they gave me was train me somebody who I said I wasn't comfortable on. Do I just only get paid as much as I was clocked in for, or do I get paid for that whole shift?
No, you get paid for what you clocked in for.
Okay, and I guess yesterday, technically when I was there in the morning and nobody knew that I wasn't supposed to be there. I didn't even know I was supposed to be there because I wasn't told that. I just showed up and just started doing my shift, and then I was asked to leave. Do I just get paid for I clocked in on that one, or I just get the whole shift?
What you clocked in. Did you punch in though?
Yeah, I punched in and out both times. Because, I mean, I just was always told that you can't take hours from somebody without 24 hours notice.
Well, what they informed me was that, let's see, I don't know if she wrote it in here. It was my understanding you were supposed to talk to me before you worked again.
Yes. But, like, nobody told me that the day that I was talking to Chastity. I mean, they said I had to talk to you, but they didn't say I had to talk to you before I ever came back in. They're just like, if you want to talk about this specific matter, you can bring it up with Cheryl. And I'm like, I'll be more than happy to.
Okay, so I just went by with what I just thought, and maybe they thought you understood before you worked again too, or maybe they didn't even know you worked the next morning. That could be it.
That I don't know, yeah.
We don't always have everyone's schedule in our up here,
Yeah, I know.
so that's probably.
All right.
And I, they didn't know my schedule either that day, so.
Yeah, I know. I got
That's where
that.
the miscommunication went. Well, Kelly, do you want to sign this? Do you want a copy of this, Jeremy?
Yeah, sure.
So, do you have an interest in, do they have openings with the local police department here, the sheriff's department, or where are they?
They do. As far as I know, there's 3 openings, but I was going to try out Des Moines, different scenery,
Oh,
more opportunity for stuff on my free time.
that would be kind of a scary place to start, though.
Yeah, that's what my brothers told me too. They said wear a vest and a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Waterloo, Cedar Rapids, maybe we just don't hear as much about Des Moines because they're so far away.
That's true.
But there's some tough communities out there. So, well, good luck.
Well, thank you.
Keep us posted on your law enforcement career then too.
Will do.
Good luck.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Yep. I'm probably going to go down to my closet and grab my things if that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have keys that you have to turn in?
I mean, all my keys are probably on Casey's lanyard because we share a lanyard.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you need them from her, I can have her bring them in when she works again.
Does she still works in the units though? Does she-
She's kitchen.
But does she ever?
Yeah. I think once in a while she might go up to Sunshine.
They'll see. They normally pull her up there when she's in the kitchen if they're short enough.
Okay.
All right. Bye.